Very sorry because I was supposed to be with Jérôme Beauchamp from NG, one of our customers, and we were co-chairing there. So I will try to replace him as much as I can with his slides. And he really apologizes for not being able to be here today with us. But if you need, I'll be happy to give you his contact details, and you can learn from his experience. So quick raise of hands. Does anybody who knows what no code means? I mean, we had a big hint just before, but who knows? Who doesn't know what no code means?
I don't.
Okay, very good. So that's great. So let's start a little bit with that. No code basically is the concept of being able to create digital applications without writing lines of code, so without coding, okay? So the idea is that you don't have to be a developer to write your own business applications, your own mobile applications, your own websites, your own tools, your own SAP, your own Salesforce, your own whatever. You can rewrite anything you don't like Salesforce, just replace it with your own, okay? Very easily, maybe in minutes or in hours or in days. So a pretty big revolution that is coming up, the capability to create your own tools, and it has a big impact within the workspace, because basically now you're saying that it's not only the IT department that knows everything or can decide everything. It can be anyone in the organization that can create their own tools. So I want to tell you a little bit about this revolution, really, that is happening and the impact it has in the workspace, and a little bit of use cases with NG and what they've been able to do and what the impact was for them in the organization. It's a bit technical, so I hope if you have any questions or if I'm too technical, let me know. Trying to really just give you, I will talk about technology and we'll look at the impact for the business. So the reason why do we create systems like no code is usually when you create something that is especially a disruption is because there is a need. And the need is that it's complex to write software. I mean, you need to be a developer, you need to do into engineering school or to computer language schools. And you have cloud, you have mobile, you have security, you have collaborative aspects. I mean, it's becoming more and more complex to write software tools, right? And very often you have people who have a need, and in very small companies, you know, maybe it can be the same person who decide to do it on their own. But if you're in a big corporation and you ask for the IT department for a solution, maybe they'll tell you, well, we already have, you know, we have a 3-year plan, so come back in 2 years and we'll try to answer your need. And when they start to answer your need, well, okay, we can either we find off-the-shelf software. If it doesn't work, we'll build one, and it can take months and months to design it and then to build it, etc. So there is a real need. And so the real need is solving business problems. And how do we do that usually? So again, there are 3 ways. The most famous one is technology that doesn't work. Let me use this instead. That doesn't work. Sorry. Okay, right, like this, it works. So the most famous tool is the spreadsheet. And the way everybody knows the spreadsheet, I suppose that everybody knows what the spreadsheet is, yes? Don't raise your hand if you don't know what a spreadsheet is. But so it's really the first no-code tool is the spreadsheet. So everybody knows no-code actually, because everybody knows that with a spreadsheet you can basically create your own tools to manage some kind of information easily. And I'll tell you a little bit about the story, about the history of the spreadsheet. But obviously, we all know there are limitations. I mean, you won't run a whole company, or you won't have a mobile application, or you won't be digitizing whole processes or share files using a spreadsheet. But the big advantage, and the reason it's still very popular, it's considered the most used business tool really today, is because people can do it on their own. They don't need to ask anybody else. They have it, and they can start to do things on their own. the other thing is buying software. So you have a problem, you try to find a software that will solve your problem. If you think that software, sometimes it's more about organizations, of course, and messaging and communication, etc. But if you need a software, you will try to buy a software. But of course, you need to adapt your processes to the way the software is built, right? You're trying to find the best software, but very often you need to fit into something which becomes really changed, that you can't move around what the software exists. So many people will say, okay, we'll build our own software. So of course, that makes sense. And inside organizations, there are lots of software being developed for many kinds of use cases. But it's obviously very long and very costly. And just in France, I'm sure the numbers are the same in Germany. It is estimated that there are 80,000 developers missing. I mean, we are a software company, so we recruit software developers, and it's very difficult to find developers, right? So not only it's costly, not only difficult, but it's very long, and it's also estimated that the total cost of ownership is very high. When you create a software, it takes time to design it, to develop it, to test it, and then you need to maintain it because technology changes, and it's estimated that it's up to 80% of the total cost is actually after the development, just the maintenance of having your own software. So the good news is if you develop it, then you own it. You may not need to pay additional prices. You know exactly what you need, but it's long and costly to develop your own. So I'll tell you just a little bit about our company, and then I'll go back into the no-code and the use case of Angie. So this is where we come in, TimeTonic. Our mission is really to make it just very simple to do digital transformation. Our vision is that if people can build their own software, it will be a revolution. And we see it every day now with our customers. And we have a way of doing it which we call data as the application. Actually, beyond code or beyond applications, what we think is what is important is sharing information, accessing information, and making decisions based on information. And whether you call it an HR, SIS HR, or CRM, or project management tools, or logistics tool, the name of the tool is not important. The important is what kind of information you're creating with that and processing. And we have a strategy really which, as a company, we really target operational teams. So we don't target the IT department, although right now we're working also a lot with the IT departments, but we really address the people on the ground, whatever they're in marketing or in operations or in field service or whatever that have needs, and help them create their own tools very easily. And so again, the reason and our approach with that was that if we can find a way, if we can answer what is the most common things to all business applications, we think we have a description. So our idea was, instead of building an application, instead of building a tool that makes it simple to build applications, we looked what was the most common, and we said, like I mentioned, that it is data. So we said, okay, if data is the most important, we will create a new kind of database that will be both the back when you store information and the front where people can manipulate information very easily, be relational, be collaborative, be cloud and mobile. And that's what we're starting to do. So the disruption is, the idea is, instead of finding a tool to solve a problem, you start with your need, and then you translate it into data, and then the application is ready instantly. We're not quite there in about the instant, but we're getting closer. And so if you look at what is a CRM is like 4 data tables: your customer names, your opportunities and the dates and the amount and things like that, and then the contacts, the people who work for that client, and then the activities, emails or phone calls that you've made, etc. So if you can build that, you already have a CRM very easily. Even emails are just a database that communicates with another database. You exchange information from 2 subject attachments, and it's just a way to create information. Then you You send it, and you have then the database of all your information. So that's the idea, is that if we can find a way to create applications just about the data need we have, then an email is just one kind of data that can be attached to a project, can be attached to a person, to a contract, to an HR, to a logistics problem. It just, you create links between data because we have a relational database. So the idea is really make it simple to centralize information. You know, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's management, whether it's processors or field service management via the mobile application, maybe it's support or maintenance or R&D, product management, human resources. You know, if you can find a way to just make it easy for information to be shared and people to create extensions for their own use, and we'll demonstrate a little bit how it goes. So that's what TimeTonic is, and I will stop with that. About us, it's really a complete no-code management and collaboration platform. You can create cloud and mobile applications and automate complete processes, like, you know, change something and then an email will sort out with a contract, HR contract, or an invoice, or whatever you want. And you can do all that without any programming, and you can learn it in a few hours. And you can build it in a few minutes once you know how to do it. So you amazing speed that you're giving, and I will give you examples with NG of what it means. So it's really a smart visual database, collaborative, as easy or simple to understand as a spreadsheet, as powerful as an ERP if you want to make it a whole system, and very easy to use. All right, and we are, by the way, we're French, we are hosted in France, we are GDPR compliant, we have secured, we work with large organizations like Vinci, Veolia, NG, etc. We've done audited about our systems, etc. So going back a little bit about the history of no-code and the history of spreadsheet, I just wanted to mention where we think it's a little bit of parallel to where we are today. I mean, 40 years ago, I mean, here is more than 40, 60 years ago, you know, we had big mainframes, and everything was, you know, managed from these big systems, which is a little bit similar to big software systems that we have right now in large organizations. That was not, you know, good enough for many reasons. And then, you know, they had the first personal computers, make it possible for others to basically create or manage or compute information on their own. You know, before Apple, there were a few others like Commodore, etc. But Apple II was really the first big success. And the reason why it was a success, if you hear Steve Jobs' interview about, I think in 1990s, I said the reason we were successful is not because of the Apple II. It's because somebody came to us and said, you know, we have invented a new tool. It's called VisiCalc. It's like a visual calculator. And it was the first spreadsheet. And they asked, you say, can we put it on the Apple II? He said, yeah, sure. And they sell it. And it was the tool that made it into corporations, because it gave the power for business owners to get rid of, you know, an army of consultants and other people that would do the business and the accounting and a lot of activities. And it really became the success of Apple. And then, of course, IBM came up with the IBM PC in 1991, 81. And then Lotus came in, was very successful, 1983. Again, still a spreadsheet. Excel, Microsoft arrived 1985. First, by the way, on the Macintosh, not on the IBM, interestingly. And it was really the tool that we all know that is being very much used, until, of course, TimeTonic. Now we have a much better system where we can, you know, manipulate. You can write into it. It's collaborative. You can drag and drop files and instantly mobile. So you can replace, you know, Salesforce and all your mobile applications very, very easily. So going back again a little bit on the history, so you understand that it's really a wave that is coming. You know, this big wave of mainframe systems into personal computers and giving the power to the people to build their own. It's really what is happening now is you have like coding was for experts, and then you had binary codes and punching cards, etc. Then you had assembly code and advanced programming language like C, and then Java and C++ and etc. Then you had frameworks that would make it simpler to create applications, and now you have really no code. And no code is about the idea that anybody, really anybody, can create their own applications. And that's a big revolution. And I'll show you some of the statistics or predictions from Gartner and Forrester or what it means. But it has huge implications, of course, in the way we work and who makes the tools that we build. So how big is that? It is estimated that there's about $500 billion that is spent every year just to build internal tools into corporations. Just to give you an idea, the whole CRM business, which is considered to be huge, is about 50 to 70 billion. So it's almost 10 times bigger. It's just the amount of energy and money spent in software development. Gartner estimates that between 65 to 80% of all business applications will be developed using no-code and low-code. I will explain the difference between low-code and no-code afterwards. And Forrester estimates that this is the year that it really becomes mainstream. And now it's not a geek tool and a side project. It really replaces mission-critical applications within organizations. So for Forrester, the reason, again, is because most people, especially with the pandemic also, there's a realization that, IT system may not be perfect, that the capability to be able to support remote work was not perfect, and the people needed better ways to collaborate, and a lot of people started to build applications on their own like this. And McKinsey also saying that cost can be reduced by 30% just by simplifying the IT systems. Because again, if you have a big system that tries to solve everything, it's much more complex to put in place, much more difficult to use, much more difficult to train people to use it. That means more errors, more people are not happy with the large system. But if you can make it in a way that exactly solves the business needs, and then you change totally the mind of what it means. So just two terms that are a little bit technical. We talk about LCAP and CADP. So LCAP is low code application platform. So low code is really for developers. It's just like a simplified framework. You still need to be a developer, but you use bricks, you use visual interface, make it simpler to create code. Usually you can do it in a way that is 3 times faster. Less bugs, easier to maintain. So that's on its own, it's big improvement. And then you have what's called citizen developer or citizen automation, the development platform. And here it's not for developers, it's not for the IT systems. Of course, the IT department can still use it. But this means that anybody can create their own tool. And I'll give you the example of Engie afterwards. They developed the team that we are going to talk about. They had a need for a mobile application for their technicians installing IoT systems for small building, heating control, remote, etc. And they were initially pen and paper, and then they decided that it was too complex, lots of mistakes, errors. The technicians would send an email every day with pictures and fill a spreadsheet, copying information they had on paper. So, it's not a good way to work. We need an application. They decided to develop it internally. Took 18 months, 3 developers, to 250 weeks to develop it. That means that during those 2 years, there were still pen and paper and errors and big problems. When finally they had the solution, it was complex to use. It didn't solve exactly the need. We talked to the IT department. They need to understand the problem. They try to fix it, etc., etc. And so they decided to use TimeTonic instead. And in 2 weeks, one person alone, no development software, was able to build a better application. They said 10 times better than what their IT department took 18 months to develop with 3 people. So this is, and so total is like, 100 times faster, 10 times better. That means, in fact, 1,000 times better. And 1,000 times better by one team. So instead of being top-down approach, if you have like 1,000 teams developing their own business tool, that means like 1,000 times 1,000 means 1,000,000 times faster to answer the needs of people on the ground for a whole company, right? So you're really talking about light speed difference in terms of change inside an organization. So it's real revolution. So just again, mentioning difference between low code and no code. Low code for developers, about 3 times faster. No code is really no development knowledge at all. Different type of approach. Can be the IT department, or can be citizen developers, can be graphical interface, or it can be like us, data approach. So just think about what you need, put it in data, and then the applications and the user interface builds itself alone. So really difference between top-down and bottom-up. And there is a term that we call, it's called citizen developers. I'm sure you will hear that a lot if you have not heard about that yet. And it's really interesting. There's a little bit of a, like there are forums and a little bit like geek groups that call themselves citizen developers, or they call themselves makers, and they talk about the best way to do things. So the opportunity is, of course, for the IT department to accompany this movement and to control it in a way that you still have security, you have all the issues that a big group will need to solve, but still give that same value for within an organization. So again, with the data approach, we think it's much better because you don't need to be a UX designer, you don't need to think about processes, just think about the information that the need, translate it into information, and then that's already instantly built. So here I'm going to take my other hat with being Jérôme Beauchamp from NG. So hello everyone, I'm very happy to be here. So Jérôme is the head of operations, and he's the person who built the application I mentioned. So he was the one who asked the IT department, said, guys, we cannot go on with pen and paper. We are losing time. We're not sure it's been done. We have to go back to a site installation because we only have like pictures and maybe it was not filled correctly, and there are lots of information. So let me explain a little bit what he does. So they do what they call the individualization of heating and sanitary water through these IoT systems that you can put into smart buildings, installation, and then data collection of these to be able to do remote work and control, and then processing of that information, and then of course creating services, better service, whether or not people are inside the room or not, if it's been occupied, if you need to measure the use of the workspaces, or controlling the heat, reducing the heat if there's nobody in the office, right? You don't need to have anybody there, and you reduce your energy footprint, etc. So big demand for these types of systems into corporations. And what they do is they equip approximately 100 sites per year with this team, about 5,000 apartments. This is work on the housing part, but there are other divisions working on industrial and buildings and office buildings, etc. So on average, there's 5 equipments per apartment. Each equipment is 20 to 50 data points, and so that means thousands and hundreds of thousands of data points to collect. And imagine when you were doing that with pen and paper, and then having to fill that into a spreadsheet, and having a manager having to centralize that information. Obviously, you need a better solution. So initially, as I mentioned, pen and paper. They tried their own software development. It was long, it was complex, it was expensive, and it didn't solve their need. So they basically did it on their own and created a collaborative solution, cloud and mobile, that was exactly fitted to their exact need. So they call it OSIS. That's their internal name. So it's their application. They call it OSIS. So a few days of training, a few weeks to build it. And they could not only build the application, but also the planning, who needs to do what. So all the work of hundreds of technicians, what time they need to go, because there is a web version as well with all the maps and the timelines, etc. And then the application where people can start to fill in information, take pictures, barcodes, NFC, card reading, etc. And they had also a lot of constraints because there are ISO, of course, in terms of processors. There are also a lot of regulation requirements about these types of systems into housings. Of course, there are, it's being controlled by lots of security and comfort and safety issues, etc. So all needs to be taken into account into building a systems like that. So basically, they created the whole system with planning. They can see in real time who is doing what site has been done or not. And the fact that it's also in real time made it possible to save a lot of activities and time and not having to go back to the solution. The digital construction is really this mobile application where they have forms that they fill, link with different types of information, all kinds of data. I won't go too much into the detail of all the application, but again, he did all of that without any knowledge. A few days of training is as easy to use as a spreadsheet, really. So again, about the regulation, if you're interested, so there is really a law about this, that if you install thermal energy meters, what needs to be done or not, what it means, you don't want to overheat. On the contrary, of course, you want to make sure that there is this was a big system in France called the Grenelle de l'environnement, which doesn't make sense to have big apartments where, you have the same heating temperature controlled centrally. On the top floor, you are freezing. At the bottom floor, you're too much heat. People open the windows because there's too much heat. So they start, okay, we need to give the power to have local control of the temperature, and then they started with all of this, and a lot of things happened from there afterwards. So again, the pain was thousands of data into Excel, handling unsecure data transmission by emails and all kinds of things, a lot of data covering entries, issues, numerical technical visits, so they had to go back to check if it was done or not, long delivery times, impact on the operating phases, of course. And with this, they managed to be able to create their own applications. So it basically combines the best of the spreadsheet, the database, and data visualization tool. They were able to better program and design the production. It's available on cloud and mobile with automatic, you can generate documents, etc. Instantly. And it was very interesting. It was instant adoption. So we're talking about tools within their workplace. And because it exactly fitted the need for the technician, that meant that it was exactly what the people needed. So they moved from 3 days of training the technicians to 3 minutes. So because instead of having a complex system, it was exactly with people what they needed, very simple, very ergonomic, and it just was, you don't even need to be trained, it just matters. So that means less errors, better quality, better safety also, because people use it correctly. So when you're talking about building installations and constructions or warehouses or industrial sites, having, make sure something that is simple to use is key. And it was much faster to implement and use. So what they told us is amazing, of course, performance. They reduce almost by half the time they do sites. So imagine the cost of having hundreds of technicians, and they divide that by half in terms of the quality and the speed at which they could install the system. And it's obviously both real-time and offline. So if there's no connection, then it will store data. So no worries if you're in the basement or in the elevator space or in the industrial place, then you can, still work, and it will resynchronize instantly. And it is collaborative. Very automatically collaborative is very important as well. So now that we talked a little bit about the advantages, just very quickly, Okay, I'm getting pushed on time, so I will move very, very fast on things. So I will talk about disadvantages, no disadvantages about no code. So we'll move directly to advantages. No paper, very fast, instant adoption means better security and quality. And just in terms of impact, because very important, impact on the workspace, and we share your space afterward, but very important is impact on customer service, on the IT department, what it means, big job change for them as well, so they can focus more on security, on training, on being an enabler, being an empowerment force for the organization. Operations, big change about the waste of time. Sales, marketing, impact on the workspace, very important as well. With these types of technology and the COVID impact that it had. So really, no-code is about giving a non-fair advantage to the people who choose it, because easy to use, centralized information means one source of truth. You don't need to be a programmer. You don't even need to have external consultants. You don't need hundreds or thousands of consultants. They can help you for the business part of you, but you don't need them for the implementation part anymore. So with APIs and secure GDPR, and very interestingly, and I will end with this, is really the motivation. When you have the people on the ground who don't have the right tool and they have to wait, 2 years for the IT department to solve their need, during this time, they are really in pain. And when they get finally the tool and it still doesn't work, or it's still painful to use, or complex, or ugly, or it's very demotivating. And so first of all, you give them a way to solve that, so they're very happy with the new tool. But second, you give them the power to build it on their own. And you cannot imagine the transformation it gives to the people. I mean, Jérôme, and I will be speaking on his behalf, but he got promotion, he got a reference within the organization. He was capable of solving problems that the IT department could not solve for years. So that's a big booster. And basically the idea is that, we all intelligent, you trust your people. They are intelligent, they know what they need. They work every day with their own problem. You just give them the power, and you just trust them to solve their own problems. So the motivation for the workplace is just a big impact. And it's ROI. Just if you can replace dozens of tools, you save a lot of times. And of course, if you need to create one, divide by 100 or by 1,000 your cost. So very high. So just concluding that, if you look at the whole IT systems, of course, you will still need the SAP for invoices or for your paychecks, etc. You may need desktop tools like Word and Excel, etc. You will need maybe specific things for your industry, and then everything else, is probably solved with citizen developer approach. So really the missing puzzle for the IT department. Very good. Thank you very much. Sorry, I've been a little bit too long.